Hello and welcome to the Salah Poetry Podcast. This is episode 60. My name is Rory Hatchell, and today we are talking about Song of Myself. Yeah. I'm about to justify it, but I don't need to justify it anymore. I just love it. If you're behind, go back and listen to old episodes to it, or just go back and read the whole thing. I think some people are a little lost. That's fine. It's great. We have two parts today, 17 and 18, because 17 is 6 lines long, and 18 is only 11 lines long. So we're going to do both of them. Last we left off, had another list poem, good old list poem from Uncle Walt. Very vague this time we talked about, a lot of opposites, and then he kind of says this great line, I resist anything better than my own diversity. And we chewed on that for a little bit. Today, you want to know, just a side note, it's a sad tragedy of coffee that milk cools it. That's why frothed latte. This is the real strength of lattes. It's not the foamy milk, it's just hot milk. Anyways. Part 17. I'll read it through. I'll do them separate. Part 17. Here we go. These are really the thoughts of all men in all ages and lands. They are not original with me. If they are not yours as much as mine, they are nothing, or next to nothing. If they are not the riddle and the untying of the riddle, they are nothing. If they are not just as close as they are distant, they are nothing. This is the grass that grows wherever the land is and the water is. This is the common air that bathes the globe. This is the one where we're getting spicy, Walt. A lot of universal language, as is pretty usual for him. Especially in his past few sections, although he's been kind of specific in some of his list poems. So he starts off with, these are really the thoughts of all men in all ages and lands. And we'll say men and women. It's Walt doing his best, but it was the 1850s. And I'm assuming by these thoughts, he means his whole poem so far, not just part 16, and not just, it'd be weird if it was just 17, it exists in context. So we're going to say it's everything he said so far. So all of this, we're interconnected, we're equal. There is this divine equality. There is not just a physical ecosystem, there's a spiritual ecosystem. We are connected by our humanness, and even more so by our livingness. And so he says, these thoughts, that we are connected, that we are equal, that we are there seeing each other, and we're eternal, and we're going to die, and all this thing he's talking about, universal, all men and all ages and all lands. This is nothing new, which he's sort of right. You will find this equality in, I mean, I'm going to say every, but I'm sure someone could find an obscure religious system that endured, that was not a cult, that did not have this. But almost all of them have this universal, people are people. Hey, I mean, love thy neighbor as yourself is not owned by Christians, right? So many, that's a common golden rule in many faith traditions. This idea that, I mean, even just treat your neighbor as yourself appears in the Old Testament. So it's at very least also Jewish and also Muslim, but it also appears in Buddhism and Hinduism. Like, it appears. This idea of, hey, that's a person too. And that is like, it's amazing that is like the primary divine mandate. That's a person too. That's a life too. And we can always get there intellectually, but it's so hard for us to get there emotionally. And even more interesting is there's this part of us which always wants to find an exception. It's like, yeah, but they don't deserve it. Yeah, but they've abandoned their rights to claim me too, or what about me? There's like this little ness to it, which is really interesting. So these are really the thoughts of all men in all ages and all lands. They are not original with me. If they are not yours as much as mine, they are nothing or next to nothing. Now, I would say that, especially when he's writing, people had a lot more think time. The days were slower and longer. And by that, I mean, by longer, I mean, they're technically shorter because they slept more. But by longer, I mean, like, there was, time didn't move as fast. Like, we kind of lose slip of a lot of time because we'll watch a television show and half an hour is gone. We'll drive to work and 15 minutes is gone, right? Like, we just lose chunks of time really fast. And when you multitask, they go by even faster. And at this time, it's like, nah, like, I mean, if you go, like, you know, rake your leaves, it's a slow hour, right? You're like, whoa, that was an hour? Now go watch your favorite HBO show. That will go very quickly. That what? That was an hour? Wow. All right, so they were longer, slower days. People had more think time. There was less entertainment, that especially universally accessible entertainment, especially non-participatory entertainment. If you wanted to be entertained, you had to read, you had to play an instrument, you had to dance. It required something of you to be entertained. And then we reached this era where I can just passively sit and consume, and it doesn't require anything of me to be entertained. I can just kind of stop being, which we kind of need to, because we need rest, because we're burning so fast through life. So I would say that everyone has had these thoughts. I think it happens to people in the deep dark night. It happens to people when they are really bored. It happens to people in the shower. That's why they have that kind of classic shower thoughts of like, I just had this random deep thought because my mind was wandering and I couldn't do anything else, right? Except my wife and I have found a way around this. We listen to podcasts in the shower, so it's like I don't even have those off. That's why I like to go walking, because there reaches a point where, like, at first my mind is a buzz, and I'm like thinking about all the things I have to do today and about my life, and then it just reaches this thing where it's like, now I can just wander about random stuff, and my mind kind of like, it gets through all the necessary processing it feels it has to do, and it can enter musing and wondering. And yeah, I think if people are given that time and energy and space, they would get to this point of having these thoughts. If they are not the riddle and the untying of the riddle, they are nothing, which is interesting. Thinking that we're all connected, that we're all equal, that we're all part of a divine ecosystem is a riddle, but it's also how you untie the riddle, is being aware that we're all equal and we're all part of a divine ecosystem and we're all connected. That it is both the conundrum and the way to solve the conundrum. I think that's a really fascinating. I think it's very wise. I think it's very true. That, man, people are people is the problem, and man, people are people is how you start to pick at the problem. Yeah. It's like, why do people do terrible things? Well, people are people. How are we going to stop that? We need to help people understand that people are people. That's step one. If they are not just as close as they are distant, they are nothing. This is the grass that grows wherever the land is and the water is. This is the common air that bathes the globe. So we started off with the grass. This is from Leaves of Grass. We had in, I think it's section 6, the child comes up to him and says, "What is the grass?" And he tries to muse through that. So we are not leaving this grass metaphor. It is there, and it is 6. So he goes back to it, and he says, this is the grass. It's like he found his answer to that kid. It took him 11 sections of poetry. This is the grass that grows. What is the grass? It is this problem. It is this riddle. It is these thoughts that we are all equal. We are all flowing into each other. We are an internal ecosystem and an external ecosystem. We're physically an internal ecosystem. You talk about all the biomes and bacteria within you that need to be in balance. And we're also in an internal divine ecosystem. We're an external ecosystem. We're an external divine ecosystem. That we are all, you cannot move without rippling the universe. It's all a pond. And not just like your actions, your thoughts and your prayers and your beliefs and your doubts and your fears, that everything matters, is both the problem and the solution, the untying of the problem. That it all is so weighty with realness and importance. It is crushing us with its weighty importance. And yet it is the only liberation, is to take the weighty importance with us. That's the grass. It is ubiquitous. It is absolutely the most real thing. It is overwhelmingly around us and overwhelmingly real at all times, the grass. And by the grass, he means this question, this problem, this connection. So we get into poem 18, which I'll now read, section 18. I know, I kind of pause. We could just chew on this for 10 more minutes, but I get into 18. With music strong I come, with my cornets and my drums. I play not marches for accepted victors only. I play marches for conquered and slain persons. Have you heard what it was good to gain the day? Have you heard that it was good to gain the day? I also say it is good to fall. Battles are lost in the same spirit in which they are won. I beat and pound for the dead. I blow through my embouchures, my loudest and gayest for them. Vivas to those who have failed, and to those whose war vessels sank in the sea, and to those themselves who sank in the sea, and to all generals that lost engagements, and all overcome heroes, and the numberless unknown heroes equal to the greatest heroes known. What a strange transition to go from this is all our thoughts, and this is the riddle and the answer, and this is the grass, and it is everywhere, and it is, this universal touchstone of our existence is that we're connected. And then he goes into all this battle metaphor. I think it makes a lot of sense when you start thinking about treat someone else as you want to be treated. Empathize with that person. Really get in their shoes and see what it's like to be them. And they're like, yeah, but they killed a person, and I don't kill people. And that's the scary part about our ecosystem. That's what's threatening the imbalance. And he's singing against it. He is extolling the victors and the losers, everybody who participates, the known heroes, the unknown heroes, all of those who sank in the sea and those themselves who sank in the sea, all who have failed, right? He is, I beat and pound for the dead, loudest and gayest for them, right? So he is singing to the victors and the losers because he is trying to say that you can't steal from them. Oh, there are two types of people and only one type that's happy. There are people who think that the world is enough, that life is enough, that today is enough. They're satisfied. They're content. They say that the world is overflowing. They say that if I'm hungry, there's food, I'll find it. If there's love, I'll find it. There's people, there's the divine. They feel connected and supported. They feel the universe has their back. And then the people who don't. They think the universe is a cold, dead place, and that you got to scrap and scrounge for everything. Attention, love, affection, absolutely. Not just money and resources and time. No. Love it. There's only so much attention, which is practically true. Everyone can't look at everything all the time. There is a fixed amount of attention. And with that understanding, you say, there's not enough for me. I've got to get mine. I've got to steal it from them. Take their attention. Look at me. There's only so much affection. I've got to have it. You can't go hang out with your friends because what about me, right? You can't go, hang out with your family because what about me? And that is exactly it, this what about me part. And it's losing sight of the picture. Because he says, we're all equal. But then there's that little voice comes in and it's just like, but maybe you're less than equal. Or it comes in and says, but maybe you should be better than them. And it takes away the premise. It says we're not equal. There's only so much. We got to fight for it. It makes you afraid. It makes you angry. It completely destroys this Zen-like state which we achieve when we're like, this is the grass and it's everywhere. This is what it's like. Everyone's had these thoughts. We're all sorting through life together. People are people, and that's the problem. People are people, and that's the solution. And this voice comes in and says, those people don't deserve to be treated like people. They've abandoned it. Or, I'm a person too, but since I can only experience my life, clearly my life is more important. And it immediately loses that equality. And so he goes into like this super intense oppositional analogy, which says war, right? Battles, winners and losers, dead people, living people, right? It's not like we had like a game of chess, right? Oh, you lost a game of chess, too bad. He's saying this is a place where there's winners and there are losers, and the cost of losing is death. Right? So he creates this super extreme competitive environment. We're not just talking about money, we're not just talking about businesses, we're talking about life and death. And he says, even there I can sing of the dead. Even there I can say there's this great equality. Even in battle I can say people are people and that's the problem, and people are people and that's the solution. And we lose it so quickly. We lose it when we don't get the job we want. We don't get a promotion we want. We lose it when the day doesn't go the way we wanted it to. And how quickly we extrapolate into forever. We start getting into these big statements about our identity. I'm a failure. I'm not good enough. Or the opposite. I'm important. I'm better than other people. My life has more value. I have more influence. They need me. You don't see yourself as part of an ecosystem anymore. You're like this God who stands aside, or you're this pathetic thing that stands aside, but you're no longer equal, because there are winners and there are losers in life. And he's saying, nope, let's be clear. You're all going to die. There's the great equality in death, and there's also the great equality in life. You're all living. Now, the quality of living may vary, but I've already covered that in my previous poems. I am all these people. I am all these socioeconomic statuses. I am all these rich. We're all human. We're all alive. That's our commonality there. We're all alive. So there's a great equality in living. There's a great equality in dying. And everything else is just like, I don't know. In the grand scheme, he would argue it's as silly as not just arguing about what toppings to put on your sundae, right? We're all having a sundae. We're all having the same flavor, same ice cream, life and death, a scoop of life, a scoop of death, and we're gonna put sprinkles on it. And he's saying everything else is not just even the sprinkles. It's arguing about what color everybody gets sprinkles, but you're arguing about what color your sprinkles should be. Should they be all green? Should they be all blue? Should they be green, and pink? That's how petty it is that you're arguing. By the way, sprinkles are pretty much flavored the same, right? Especially if you get the mixed batch. He's like, that is what we're doing. That's what we're arguing over. And I know it seems so easy to lose that, to lose sight of it when there's suffering and there's pain. It's like there's this quaint utopian naivety to it. The middle class can think that, the upper class can think that, but then they see how the lower class live. But then you talk to people who don't have a lot. Go abroad. Go to I don't think we call them third world countries anymore. Go to developing nations. Go to poor neighborhoods. Go to people who struggle to day by day get through with their life. And see if they're unhappy with like existing. Right? There are people there who have such profound peace about them. Because they do not have much, but they have something. They understand, and most of them are most content because they're part of a community. They have families, they have tribes, they have neighbors, they have people, they have culture, they have tradition. They are part of an ecosystem and rhythms of life. They are aware of the grass. They know that people are people. They're in it. They're plugged into that awareness. They have not lost sight of the great equality. And all the miserable people, whether among the poor, the rich, or the somewhere in between, all of them have lost sight of the great equality. Will you be great? I don't know, but you'll be living. And that is to be great. Will you be famous? I don't know, but you are living. Will you be known? That is to live is to be known. Right? The earth knows your footsteps. The air knows your breath. The mirror, it is more intimate with your lungs than you will ever be. You are all known. You are all famous. You are all great. And you are all nothing, because you are dust. And you are all obscure, because there is so much life around you. You are all forgotten, because it will fade away. There is a great, great equality in eternity, in the divine, in the ecosystem of heaven and earth, in the ecosystem of heaven, in the ecosystem within your chest. There's a great equality. Do not lose sight that people are people, and that is the problem. But people are people, and that is the untying of the riddle. That's what Uncle Walt has for us today. '18 is really him pressing in on that idea in 17. It's like, is it still true? What if I think of this most outrageous scenario, this little thought experiment? What about battle? He's like, yeah, it's still true. It's still true. There's the great equality of life and death. There is some part of your life you are really frustrated. Whether you feel insecure or you feel entitled, or you are really stressed because you feel not inadequate, or you feel burdened with the significance of you. I mean, I sometimes, like, it doesn't sound this way, but, like, I mean, I'm the primary provider for my family, and there is this burden of, I am so important, right? I hold this household together. I pay the bills. I am so important, and that's difficult. And there's a great equality. I have a wife. I have kids. They're all equally important. I have parents and sisters and brothers and uncles, and there's a great equality. Let that ease your stress. Let that ease your insecurity. Let that ease your fear. Let that soften your pride. People are people, and that is the problem. People are people, and that is the untying of the problem. Chew on that. Walt and I think it could change your life, but you gotta chew on it. It's heavy stuff. It's dense. Take it, reflect on it, give yourself space. Salah.